Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much. I'd like to thank the Australian Angus Society for asking me to judge here today. Judge, to present here. The amount of times I've said that in my life. And particularly Liz Pearson for extending the invitation to me. Could I please have a show of hands just for my benefit? How many, just what the composition of the room is. So have we got, how many stud producers are in the room? And commercial breeders? And industry support? Thanks, Liz. Well, that's great. It's good to see a vast group of people. So moving on from there, I'll just give you a quick snapshot of where the company's at. So basically, we've got three feedlots. We've got Grassdale, which is at just south of Dalby. It's at 52,000 head with an application to go to 70. Pine Grove, we're going through a refurb on it at the moment, and it'll be out to 10 by the end of the year. Gunny and Pine Grove's just south of Dalby also. So we have Gunny, which is at Delunga in the New England. We purchased it in 2006 with as a JV with Sundown Pastoral Company. We also at Grassdale have preconditioning paddocks for 8,000 head. Now that's a massive asset for us because we purchase a lot of sale yard cattle. We've got cattle that are coming from lots of different vendor mobs, and it's a way we can commingle cattle to get them to just come on to feed so much better. Their health is so much better when they do come in into the feedlot. An interesting fact is we have on average 710 tonnes of rations consumed at Grassdale every day, and in fact yesterday it was 735 tonnes. So of that inventory of 72,000, as the company's expanded, diversity of inventory is the most paramount thing at scaling up. Traditionally, we're a commodity type market with that 100-day grain-fed implanted cattle, and as we've progressed and built the company, we're really needing to diversify and get some of those niche markets, and that's where the mid-fed 100-day, 150 to 200-day mid-fed Angus market is, where we're exploring those and trying to basically introduce ourselves to that market and expand our footprint. Also the Wagyu F1 market, which they're not all Angus F1s, but a large proportion of them will be. The backgrounding is also giving us more flexibility and more options in our buying power. So we've got currently 6,000 head that we background on in profit share with profit share producers. So it allows us to enter that market, that lighter market. It also gives our producers, our clients, the opportunity to if they need to offload cattle at lighter weights when they're drought, when hitting poorer times. So the Phoenix range is our brand that we launched 18 months ago. So it's it really is tailored to that F1 that mid-fed Angus market, and that's what that Grantchester brand is there. They're all MSA graded and HGP free. The Phoenix is the Wagyu F1 Angus market. So those steers there are from Greg Tyers at Tinga near Inverell. So he's been a good client of ours. We do a lot with Greg and we hopefully do plenty more in the future. That cube roll is just a Grantchester cube roll, so that Angus mid-fed. Key stakeholders. Now this is an important part of our supply chain, and the two obvious sectors that I have anything to do with, obviously, the producers and the processors. However, all sectors of our supply chain are equally important. All levels of management are dealing with each member of all that supply chain on a daily basis. Charlie will openly tell you that he's grown the only way he's grown the business to where it is today is by just building solid relationships with all those guys. So the two gents on the left are his bank managers. So we've been with NAB for 20 years, and he stuck by them, and more importantly, they stuck by him through those tough times of when the Labor government shut the live trade out. Basically the business almost went under overnight. The gentleman second from your right is Richard Hughes. So he's a large commercial operator in north central Queensland near Moranbah. Charlie met Richard when he was a young fella of jackarooing, and they've had an amazing relationship ever since. So Richard's been our longest serving client for all those 20 years, and he's actually now the chairman of our board. And the guy on the right is Scott Braun. So he is the national feedlot manager for all three feedlots, and he's been with the company for 13 years, so he's done an amazing job with all these expansions. Company culture is something that I just couldn't believe how the culture in the company was just phenomenal when I got there, and I didn't just realise the importance of just how culture just stems from the right through the company. So it really, if anyone knows Charlie, he's just such an easy guy to get on with, and he's got such a rapport with all the people he deals with, and that really just stems down and filters down right through the ranks of management, and even down to the pen writers and the pen cleaners. And good culture. At the end of the day, the staff are very proud to work there. They enjoy that being there, and then that filters through to all the people that we're dealing with on a daily basis of suppliers and customers and so forth. The two photos are just a couple of photos I thought I'd throw in. We had 40 staff at a fun run earlier in the year. We had a 6-week training program. We were all trying to get fitter and healthier, and just had such a great positive vibe for that 6 weeks, and we'll continue to keep doing that now. That was basically a trial we thought we'd do, and it was fantastic. So relationships. I pose a question to you. Do you have a transactional relationship or an interpersonal relationship with your customers or your supplier? So to me, a transactional relationship is a relationship where both parties are in it for themselves, and where partners do things for each other with the expectation of reciprocation. The obvious thing there is the best price wins on the day. We get guys that ring in and they say, well, what's your grid at? And we'll tell them it's $3 or whatever it is, and damn well he's just rung the next guy and the next guy, and he's just playing us all off. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just business. But at the end of the day, what we're after is interpersonal relationships, which are a strong, deep or close association between two or more parties. And they're good, long-term and sustainable. Businesses need strong relationships with their clients and customers. Morton Co creates interpersonal relationships with our suppliers through the following points. So the obvious one is customer feedback. So we monitor performance and provide feedback directly back to the client. So we're really not afraid to share performance with our clients to help them educate which traits are the most important for a particular market. If we can prove through feedlot performance that their cattle are 20 cents better than the average, then let's share in that on the next purchase, and then to aim to replicate that in future lots. As we build replicates and data integrity, we can procure livestock with greater assurance that the increasing premiums paid will benefit both parties. We like to educate producers how to make the most of their kill sheets. It's all about trait selection when procuring your future sire. So Hugh Munro, I'm not sure if he is in the room, these are his steers up there on the right. It's not the greatest photo in the world, but the thing about it, those steers, they were mid-fed, 150-day cattle. They've averaged 2.96 with 12 mils of fat at 380 odd kilos, and basically all milk teeth. So if Hugh's ringing me saying, what should I do to improve my genetics, I'd say just keep doing what you're doing, because that's quite phenomenal. The pic on the bottom is some 100-day cattle at Casino, so they're implanted cattle, Angus cross cattle. So the client was standing beside me when I took that photo, so we went through the boning room together. He was just over the moon by the consistency of those carcasses. And it's interesting what Tom was saying today, how we're perhaps getting our carcasses too big or our eye muscles too big. The one negative the guy in the processing room had was the EMAs were too big. I'm thinking, holy moly, what are we doing? But it did strike a chord with me when he said that, because when I was in Brisbane one day with our beef sales manager, we're just going through butcher shops, just doing a bit of R&D, and the butcher just came out. We went into the back room and he said, "Look at this! It's just too big. They're too big. I don't need them this big." You had eye muscles on them like that as a cube roll, and I guess the housewife is she can barely fit that on a plate. So the DNA testing is something that I've got very dear to my heart, and what we're now doing with 3 clients, and unfortunately I can't say that they are Angus breeders. They're all Wagyu breeders, but they're so what we're doing is, and I'd love you guys to come on board and do this. So what they're doing is they've DNA tested all their sires, and we facilitate the tissue sampling at induction. We pay for that, and then they pay for the testing of the bull. This is only on a MIP, not a SNP. But I guess the beauty is that we can feed that data back to them for them to make some solid selection on which bulls are doing the right job and which ones, and more importantly, cull the duds. So I guess it's a win-win, because they're really improving their herd, and we're procuring an ever-improving article, which in turn allows us the opportunity to reward consistently better performers. Some more good reasons at how we build the relationships. So basically, I'm at my client's beck and call, and not only me, but all other members of our team. So the number of times that I get clients that ring and say, "Barry, what's your gut feel? Should we be holding our cattle? Should we sell them? I know it's just rained. How long do you think the market's going to stay where it is?" And we're talking to processors on a daily basis, so we're getting a feel for the market, and I'm more than happy to just give them any advice that I can give them, and we're genuinely interested in helping them, and I know in turn that helps us. We have broad entry specs, so because we've just have such a large number of cattle on feed and our markets are so varied, we can buy cattle from 250 to 500 kilos, and whether they're steers, heifers, Angus, Brahman, crossbred, you name it, we've got a market for it. And I guess the beauty about that with talking to Angus producers is how many times does the feedlotter say, well, mate, you'll have to leave those skers out or those wide underbellies out. Well, we can take the lot, and you know that you're assured that you've got a market every time. The other thing about, while we're talking about entry into the feedlot, is that the other thing we do offer is a delivered price at Gunny. So we weigh cattle nearest weighbridge. If it's a Albury, we'll weigh the closest weighbridge and then pay weight at Gunny, which is that's just allowing us to be competitive with our all those New England competitors of ours. Not naming any, there's a lot of them. I won't say Ranges Valley or Karuna or Kalara. The ability to purchase light cattle, as I touched on earlier, so that really helps people out a lot, knowing that they know that they've got a market. If things get tough, then we've got an avenue to take those cattle. So they either come into Grassdale in those preconditioning paddocks, or they go into our profit share backgrounding with our producers. Our clients can tap into Morton Co.'s network of clients. So a classic example of that was the other day. A client rang me and said, look, I've had a bull that he does single sire joining, and this bull had just been a dud. So he got 8 out of 50, I think, were pregnant. And so with one phone call, he didn't want to chop their heads off, and I said, well, let's see if we can find some as replacements. So with one phone call, I rang another client, and we'd had the cattle sold, and we don't charge any commission for that. It's just us trying to get people together, and they're both mutually very happy. Dedicated support, client support for genetic advice. I get this a lot as well, and I know I know you guys in the room know what you're talking about when it comes to genetics, but the amount of guys that I still give me a call and say, or ask me to come to a bull sale and help them select bulls. So I'm more than happy to do that. So another thing is, because we've got our Phoenix brand, we've got a lot more control over the data that we get back. So we can showcase, if there's a really top line of cattle coming through, then we can showcase those cattle and put out a flyer to the end user as butcher shops or whatever, or a restaurant, and put those cattle through that restaurant. The RNA competition. So Morton Co., I don't know how many of you are aware of the RNA paddock to pallet competition. So it's basically it's the largest and most and richest carcass or feedlot performance and carcass competition in Australia. It's run at Grassdale over 3 classes. So this year we have just over 800 head in the competition, from around 60 exhibitors. So it's a great avenue for producers to benchmark their cattle against some of Australia's leading producers, and really for seed stock producers, it's a great avenue to promote their stud, which gives them a bit of commercial clout when they're promoting their bull sales. how am I going for time, Liz? I'm way above. I'm nearly wrapped up. So in closing, I pose that question to you: are you being valued as a client? If you don't, then I certainly believe you should be. Good long-term and sustainable businesses need strong relationships with their clients and customers. And that's what I would say is an interpersonal relationship. So it's a fact that Morton Co. has only survived and thrived through the building of solid relationships, which in turn has allowed us to attract the right people to grow the company to the next level. So thank you very much, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to take them.